Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we're going to dye some roving. This right here is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Roving. It is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. It is a really great fiber for learning to spin. It drafts really easily. It holds to itself nicely. I'm just trying to get this knot undone. And so it's one I really like, and I haven't decided how I want to dye it, except that I know I want it in my immersion steam pan, and that we're going to dye 200 grams of it. Now, I could easily dye just 100 grams of this at a time, but we can compress it so that way I can fit both of the 200 grams. Now, this fiber is non-superwash, and it is not the most absorbent fiber. And so what I have found with it is that it can take a while for it to get nice and wet and saturated. Now, I'm only planning on doing about an hour pre-soak today, but sometimes it could be worth letting it soak overnight, especially if you want an even coverage, which is not something that I care about, but if you want your colors to be a little more even, you're going to want the saturation level to be more consistent. You'll see what I mean when I start adding water. Right here, this is 8 cups of water with 3 tablespoons of white vinegar in it. And you can see that adding the water in, most of it went right, just like straight down to the bottom. There are some yarns and fibers that are absorbent enough that you can pour dyes on directly and they'll kind of stay where you've put them. This is not one of them. It's funny because the spun version of this fiber, like Wool of the Andes, is fairly absorbent. And you can see we're getting wet pretty quickly, but we do have some dry pockets in here. Now, if I was dyeing 200 grams of yarn, 8 cups of water could be enough in the dye bath. But we don't have much water left in here, and things are still not completely saturated. So we're going to double it, bringing us to approximately 16 cups of water with 6 tablespoons of white vinegar. And you can see, I mean, we still need to let this soak. And as I mentioned, I'm going to let it soak for about an hour. But our fiber is still very much at the surface. But this particular fiber absorbs color so slowly that whatever I do, it's going to spread and blend through. And I haven't even really decided exactly what I want to do today. I think I just want to create a very colorful, hopefully things won't blend too much, colorful fiber and see where we end up. But I am very happy with how saturated things are feeling right now. And so that's giving me making me feel very optimistic for when we return in about an hour. Right here, this is my stash of liquid dye stocks. I have a bunch of different colors here. I've got some primaries in deep magenta, brilliant yellow, and Caribbean blue. We have some emerald green. I have a neon yellow and orange, fluorescent lemon and fluorescent safety orange. I have tangelo. And, well, I have my Leave No Dye Behind mystery color, where I've been adding like remnants and extras of everything for the last couple months in there to eventually use for a project. And so I think I want to play with these liquid colors and maybe, I was thinking at first of like doing something that was like a sunset and green vibe. But you know what? I'm now thinking, even though I'm like shuddering with the idea of using like that Caribbean blue on this roving, but maybe I should do something that like is sunsetty but leaning to purple. I don't know. I haven't quite decided, but I know I want yellow in there. I know I want orange in there. And then we're just gonna see what else we have and how we think it'll go together and play. Oh, I have black too. Some of these dyes are leftovers from specific projects where I needed a lot of a particular color. And others are dye stocks that I just like to have around. I love to have the primaries at my fingertips because then I can pull them in for projects. And everything in these big bottles, I know the concentration of. These smaller bottles are a more random concentration, but I could mix something at the similar strength, but it's not something that I did precisely by weighing out the dye. But I guess let's bring over our roving, pop on some gloves, and start playing. Let's dive on in, and let's start with a little bit of some fluorescent lemon. I am thinking, okay, see the fluorescent yellow, which is a very bright yellow. This is concentrated enough that it looks orange right now, but we're gonna work it through. And yes, we have acid in here already, which means to some extent, some colors could start striking already, but they also may not. And I'm working this through further than I think it needs to, just because it was so concentrated. And I can look and see. It's okay if we have a little bit of white, but I do want to maintain some of the color. But I think what I was starting to say is that it is getting so cold outside that I'm just wanting a bit of warmth. And this isn't feeling that neon to me, but I'm gonna add some brilliant yellow, which is a non-fluorescent yellow. It is like, I would say if the lemon yellow or the fluorescent lemon is more of a neon, like it's a cooler toned yellow almost. But I don't know, like sometimes you really can see the difference between the two, but layered on top of each other, I'm not sure how much that'll come through. Okay, next up, I'm going for some fluorescent safety orange, and this is very concentrated. Once again, it is quite a concentrated version of this color, which has me a little bit nervous, and I want to try to work it this direction, right? I'm nervous just because fluorescents can take more time to bind, and so I'm nervous that it's just going to spread because this shift and blend is, it's funny, it's looking very pink down there. I mean, this is a color that definitely has fluorescent pink in it. It also has like fluorescent yellows in it. I'm just trying to work it all the way through without pushing it the other way too much. You know what? I am feeling curious. This is going way faster than I thought it would. I am feeling curious about what these colors are doing. So I'm bringing out my black light. Okay, you can see the difference now between our fluorescent lemon and our brilliant yellow, which something in that brilliant yellow, like it sort of took a lot of the fluorescence. Like maybe there's a hint of the pink, but something is almost quenching it, which is wild to me. Like I see it in this weird, super weird pattern. Like the yellow is just glowing, right? The pink, like I feel it there, but it feels weird. I think, could that yellow quench it? I don't know. I don't know, but I am certain that I used the correct orange where I did. And so I don't think that that is the issue, but it's just amusing to me. We're coming in with some tangelo. Now the brilliant yellow that I used was a 1% stock solution. These other colors so far, I think I used like in these containers half of a teaspoon of dye and then dissolved that. Half a teaspoon of dye that I then dissolved in water, like about 130 milliliters. So they are more concentrated, which, as I said, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous. Now, the difference between those two oranges usually is One is fluorescent, it is brighter. The other is a bit more pink leaning. The Tangelo is a little bit more pink leaning, but I think right here it's just feeling darker. And we weren't seeing that fluorescence there really, but maybe that's because of all the yellow. That I don't know. But now this is a 0.5% stock of deep magenta. So on one hand, it is going to be the least concentrated of all the colors that we're using, but at the same time, it's probably the most pigmented of the colors that I'm using. And I hope that the difference there is a little bit clear, because there's two sort of factors. The least concentrated means that there's less dye powder. Oop, I had a drip over there. There's less dye powder per volume of liquid, right? So like half of a gram of dye per 100 milliliters versus some of the other colors that are maybe more concentrated. But when I say that a color is more pigmented, what I mean is that for the same amount of dye powder, there's more pigment and less filler in there, which is something I very much believe about deep magenta. Over time, I'm feeling more of that bright neon yellow in there versus the difference between the fluorescent yellow and the non-fluorescent yellow. But I'm curious to know if you all will see that too. I could have had a yarn mop for today. It would have been very lovely. But I think that's just not what's in the cards for today. Oh, this is so simple. And there's something about it that I'm very much enjoying right now. And actually, some things are showing up on camera a little better than they're showing up in person, which I'm a huge fan of. It's like all of a sudden when I came to this side. Now, one thing that could have been nice would have been to blend the edges of the colors a little more. And it was something I was able to do with the yellows, but you can kind of feel like a line where I've added each new color a little bit, right? If I were to try to blend these transitions even more, we would probably lose the yellows. So that is why I'm feeling okay with it. Now, I am gonna need to heat it, but I think the other thing I wanna do is add a little bit more acid on. And as I pour that acid on, what do you see? You see, I mean, less so down here, but you see those lines, right? And I took my gloves off, but I'm just gonna work this through a little bit. And I'm starting at our lightest color, and then I'm working my way down, which is helping me blend these edges a little bit. But the reason why, when I put that vinegar on, it looked white, is because you can see, like, especially when I press the spoon down, most of the color is still in solution. Very little of our dye color has absorbed to our fiber. It will eventually, but very little has absorbed thus far. Let's bring over our black light. All right, I'm feeling that yellow. And then there's nothing with the deep magenta. But again, I'm having this weird, I think that like a little bit in the reflection I see it, but it's very weird. And I haven't seen it something quite like that before. And I know for a fact that if you have like black light blue and add pink to it, you sort of end up quenching the fluorescent and it ends up dimming that glow because of the way the different pigments work together. When you say a fluorescence is quenched, like when you add shine black light onto a fluorescent color, it'll absorb that light and then emit a light that you can see, and that is that glow that we're seeing. But if there is another color there that will absorb that light, and they both sort of absorb the light of the other, you can then reduce the amount of fluorescence that you can see. And that is what we refer to as quenching. But I think at this point, what I want to do is just leave this fiber sitting here on my counter. My house is cold. Not a lot is going to happen in 30 minutes, I don't think. Not a lot should happen. But I just want to give some time, maybe, probably not, but maybe a little bit of color will strike. But I want to give some time for things to soak in before I lift and move it. Because when I lift it up, liquid is going to shift, which is going to shift the placement of dye. And so I'd rather things have a little bit of time, maybe things absorb, before I bring it to the stove to start heat setting it. And I think I'll try to not move the camera. That's gonna be hard, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to leave the camera right here so that I'll see you in about 30 minutes. It has been 25 minutes, and I don't know if there's a huge difference here or not, but let's take it over to the stove. I tried to keep things as level as possible as I brought it over. And now we're across 2 gas burners on my stove. This pan is a 4-inch deep stainless steel pan. It has spent, oh my gosh, it's probably spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on my gas stove and has held up super, super well. A lot of times when things are cold, the dyes will sort of stay where I've put. And then once we add heat, things may start to move. However, we've got our roving here, and that is going to provide some amount of resist and make it harder for the liquid to move through, because the dyes that move through would have to move through the yarn as well. Now, you can see we have a lot of color there. There's a lot of water in here, so I'm not worried about anything burning. Still got loads of pink back there. It's all good. I think it should be great, but I think what I'm going to do is keep the heat on medium for now, and then I will eventually reduce it to low. But I'll come back and check in 10 minutes, and we'll see how we're doing. I want to keep a close eye on it, just because I don't want it to get too hot. It's been 10 minutes. I'm going to reduce the heat to low, but it's always so interesting to me. I'm still seeing a lot of color. Ooh, the pink. I mean, there's a lot of pink in that corner. A lot of the color looks so much lighter. And I think that what I'm going to end up seeing, what is that dark spot? I think that what I'll end up seeing is that the color on the bottom is going to be like darker, which is always something that I can't like explain, you know? I don't know if the yellow has reduced at all, but okay. I've reduced the heat. We are steamy. I'm going to set a timer for 20 more minutes, and we'll see where we are. One of the reasons for the 10-minute check-in was to show how the lines have softened. The other reason for the check-in was just to see how much color had struck already. Because in a superwash yarn, a lot of this pigment would already be in the yarn and there wouldn't be very much left. But we still have plenty of color and stuff in here. So anyway, I'll see you when the timer goes off. Okay, it has been 30 minutes and oh, that's so good. Oh, that's great. All right, a lot of that color has absorbed. I think that we probably still have, I mean, most of the pink has absorbed as well. Okay, we still have little pockets of color. I think that there's probably areas, especially around the edges, that are a little bit cooler. And so I think what I'm gonna do is I am gonna turn off the heat now and let everything cool off slowly. It's gonna take a long time for this to cool off, which means that it'll still have heat for that time. And if there's still color in those pockets, then we can talk about what we'll do. Maybe we'll reheat things. We have options, but by letting it cool off, we're not gonna continue to agitate things, and most of the color is in our fiber, which is awesome. I don't think I filmed any more check-ins yesterday, but it's the next morning, and we are looking really good. Now, before I go and wash this, I want to just flip it over because I am curious. Yeah. All right, let's look at where we have the darkest patches. One of the darkest patches is where we had that heat, right? Because this is right under the burner. Now here, we have a little bit darker, but on the bottom all over. This is really interesting to me because on yarn, I don't normally notice like a hot spot like this. Maybe it's something with more with non-superwash yarn. So I don't know why this happens. And if it would be a difference if I covered it or what. Thankfully, it's roving, the colors will blend out, so it's not like that big of a concern. But it's something I've observed and I wanted to take a look at. So it's something for me to investigate later, maybe using like little bits of roving. I don't know, but it's interesting. But let's go wash it. Here I have my basin full of water and I'm adding a little bit of dish soap, which I'm already just gonna rinse in before walking over our roving. Now I want to be very gentle with this because I don't want to felt the fiber. Now, when it comes to washing roving, you want it to be completely room temperature before you go wash it. Unlike yarn, where sometimes, even though I'll wait for it to cool, I might wash warm yarn. That's not going to be as big of a deal, especially if it's superwash. But let's see. I'm seeing like a tiny hint of pink. But given the amount of color in the yarn, that is really not bad. Now, when I squeezed some of the liquid out of our fiber, I tried not to rub, I just gently squeezed. The more you squeeze and manipulate the fiber, and I'm trying to have the running water go in, not on top of the fiber, but the more you squeeze and manipulate the fiber, the more you risk causing felting, because felting happens when the fibers become disordered. So if the more you move it, the more that can happen. But mostly we want to rinse the soap out. But a tiny bit of color in the water is not something that is going to make me freak out with roving. If it was like a bright pink, I would be more worried. But given that, you know, I'm doing like a gentle press and release just to try to filter out from it. So you can see now we're basically clear. So that is just really, really good. I may go ahead and rinse it one more time, but I am trying to handle it as little as possible. If you can do a press and release without rubbing, without trying to agitate things, that is best. So after this last rinse, I'm going to go ahead and put it through my spin dryer, which will remove a lot of liquid from it and help make it nice and dry nice and fluffy, because it's not going to have as much water in there to keep it compressed while it's drying. And then we'll come back and look at the finished roving. It's so pretty. Please excuse the wood chipper or whatever is going on. There's tree work going on outside my window. This roving is bright. It is stunning. I need to fluff it up and make it all pretty, but even just like tossing it over here onto the mat, I was like really excited about the colors. Just so you can see fluffed versus unfluffed, all I'm doing is twisting and giving it the slightest little fluff, just checking for surface felting, and this will draft beautifully. But it makes for a nice photo, and then it'll get sort of squished again once it's in the braid, and I store them in plastic bags for my shop inventory. I still have to figure out those like hot spots where the pink is more vibrant, like on the bottom of the pan, where it's warmer, but I like the variation in roving because it brings more dimension into it. And so it doesn't make me mad. It's just something I'm still learning about. Turned off all the overhead lights, bringing over my black light. And it is amazing to see the fluorescence just stop. Ooh, we do have some fluorescence in our safety orange that is showing through now, which it didn't necessarily in the pan. But the difference, like here, between our fluorescent lemon and then where our yellow starts, I think like over here, it just, I think that yellow just blocks it. Like over here in this patch, like the fluorescence goes way down. I don't know. I think something in here is quenching it a little bit, which isn't a huge deal. We still have our pops of fluorescence. It's just interesting to see an area that is so yellow and to see this like harsh line where the fluorescence ends. We zoom in on this little area, bring in the black light. We can see a line here and here where we go from our fluorescent lemon to our brilliant yellow in both of those spots. And you don't see as much of the line until you bring in that black light. And so it's just super interesting to me. I mean, obviously, I have all the overhead lights on now. Obviously, they are different pigments. And because they are different pigments, it's obvious that the one yellow is not fluorescent. But I think that the brilliant yellow quenches the fluorescence because we're seeing not like a slow taper of the fluorescence, we're feeling it a little bit harsher, where I'm pretty sure I blended the colors together. I could be wrong, but I just am interested. And so maybe, again, we need to do a dip dyeing into fluorescent lemon and brilliant yellow and see what happens. And to some extent, there is no more taper necessarily. With fluorescence, sometimes it's either yes or no. There can be more, there can be less, but maybe there is always a bit of a line versus a gradient. And so if I'm going to do that yellow experiment, then I should also have a skein that is only dip dyed into each of the colors independently, and then one that's dip dyed into both. So, editing Rebecca will be taking notes on all of this. But now, I'm going to go braid up all of this roving. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. I love how happy and summery this fiber is. It feels, I know at one point I was talking sunset, but it almost feels like some really nice fruity cocktail that I could have on the beach, and that just makes me feel very happy. Even if it's a mocktail, it makes me feel happy to have something summery, as it is getting so cold outside here in November that I'm filming these conclusions. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. I like to post at least twice a week, and we have a lot of fun over here, and you really don't want to miss anything. And if you're looking for other ways to help support all of the content here, go and check out the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop. It's filled with hand-dyed yarn featured in my videos, and sometimes I offer mystery surprise colorways, whether it's for a holiday like Halloween or Valentine's Day, or it's a huge event like the ChemKnits Hanukkah special. And so if you check out the shop and follow me on Etsy, you can maybe get notified when, I don't know how Etsy notifies people if you favorite the shop. But if you can follow me for free on Patreon, and whenever I launch like a big pre-order for something, I always will have a public post there that you can have your settings set so it can send it to your email, so that way you know you won't miss it. But anyway, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching.